Lissa Prince is meeting us today by Zoom, and she is Able Tech's ICT Accessibility Program Manager. And I'm going to let her unmute and go ahead and share her screen with us, and also talk to us a little bit about herself and how she became in this role. She actually was promoted to this role, so I've worked with her for quite some time now. And this year's theme, as your one-stop operator, is I want to bring more partners that understand about inclusion and accessibility. So we're going to finish out this year, or this program year, with presenters that understand that. And so when I reached out to Lissa, I asked her to talk a little bit about Able Tech, because I don't think a lot of people understand that they're not just exclusively for DRS, that they're here to support all of us. And so with that being said, Lissa, if you'll take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Kim, for the introduction. Can everybody see the screen? All right, awesome. I think I'm seeing a little thumbnail over there, so it looks like everything's good, but I wanted to make 100% positive. So, all right, so yeah, like Kim said, I was actually recently promoted to this role. So some of you may have been familiar with Rob Carr, and he was actually in this role before, and he left us for a position with a university. So I took over his position, and I'm really enjoying getting to see what else we can do here in the state. So I titled this talk, Who is Able Tech? I was kind of thinking Carmen Sandiego in my head for some reason, but our Able Tech blue doesn't really allow me to do a whole lot of branding, beyond the blue. So, and sometimes I have trouble getting this to advance when I do this on Zoom. So yeah, there we go. All right, so first things first, for those of you on Zoom, or if you're in person, just feel free to, say this out loud, but what have you heard about Able Tech? If you've heard of us at all. I just kind of like to see what, I see someone shrugging, shaking their head, not a clue who we are, which is fine. That's why I'm here. Awesome. And does anyone, I see somebody moving over there. I'm going to try to watch that little thumbnail up there. All right. And I'll watch the chat too and pull that open. All right, looks like maybe we're completely new. So I'm just going to blow your minds, I guess. Okay. Oh, we got one question or one response. And you provide accessibility equipment to those that need it all across the state. Yes, that's exactly right. For little to no cost. Yep. And I'll talk a little bit more about our programs as a whole, but yeah, that's exactly what we do. And then my team does digital accessibility work. So you'll hear a little bit more about that than anything else today, but we wanted to kind of give you an overview of the whole program. Okay, let me switch back here. All right, so our mission, thank you, Jared, for that response, is to increase access to and acquisition of assistive technology across Oklahoma. Trying to get some more screen space here. So this expands out in several different ways, but how we kind of came to be here at Able Tech is we're actually an AT Act program. So we are federally funded through the Administration for Community Living, which is ACL for short. And we are charged with supporting state efforts to improve provision of AT to individuals with disabilities across the lifespan. We're also charged with increasing awareness, access to, and acquisition of AT devices and services. And that services is kind of like a, in job postings, you see other duties as assigned. That's kind of where that services leads us. We do quite a few things with that, and the digital accessibility work that my team does categorizes under that, excuse me. So you may be asking, what is AT? And some of you may actually know what this is, but I'll kind of give you a definition. It's just pretty loose definition. I think sometimes people have a very specific definition. So I want to expand that out a little bit, but AT is anything that helps a person with a disability do a task easier, better, faster, or more efficiently than might otherwise be difficult or impossible to do without that AT. So I'll just ask for a little audience participation again, if you don't mind. So what kind of types of AT devices have you seen, or do you use yourself, or that you have, or someone who uses? Just some quick examples here, give you a little chance to type in the chat or say something out loud.
Lisa,
Yeah.
one of our audience members said that we have a reader here at in the magnifier in our AJC.
Yeah, that's a great one. So I've got some chat responses coming in here too. Standing desk, that's a great one. Ergonomics, anything to do with that can be considered AT. Got an ergonomic keyboard, voice to text, door handles instead of knobs, very large monitors for easier reading. Yeah, y'all are spot on. A lot of good examples that I wouldn't have even actually thought to include. So great example. So thank you for participating there. I wanted to kind of delve in now that we have an idea of AT and what kinds of things. Oh, and I was going to do a little other demonstration. So hopefully y'all can see this. I don't know. It's kind of small. I'm looking at my thumbnail and it looks kind of small. This is a pencil that just has a bunch of little, not sure what they're called. I'm not really super handy or anything, but these little weighted things. So they're actually really good for folks who have ADHD or even physical mobility issues, because they kind of give a little more feel to the pencil so that it helps with writing. So it can be as simple as this. This isn't something that is, we didn't even buy these at the store. I think we were given these kind of as a demonstration one time. And then I'm wearing glasses, and that can also be considered a form of AT. I can't drive without them. So, AT can really be just about anything. All right. So now I do want to delve into our core programs. So we have 4 core programs technically, but I've kind of lumped in ICT accessibility because we do have such a strong program here in Oklahoma. So our device demonstration is the first one I'll mention. And so this is actually located up in our offices in Stillwater. And it's basically a room where we have tons of little AT devices, and you can go and have demonstrations done for you. And then out of that, we can actually loan those devices out. So that's our second core program. And that means that, if you're curious about things, you can kind of just go get demonstrations about it. Or for those folks who are maybe trying to compare devices, they can take them on loan and see if they'd actually want to purchase them later. And then our device reutilization and exchange program is actually located in Oklahoma City, kind of near the Capitol. So it's a big warehouse area, and we get in donations there, and we're able to actually clean that equipment up and then provide it out for little to no cost. And then same thing for the exchange, is kind of similar. It's like a Craigslist for AT devices that we host as well. And then if folks need loans for any devices that they may not be able to afford on their own, we have a financial loan program for that as well. So those are our really big 4 core programs that are supported by those ACL funds. And then the 5th one, like I said, that's kind of lumped in there, is our ICT accessibility work. So that's what I'll focus on for most of the rest of this presentation today. And I will give you lots of definitions and everything. So our program has a bunch of acronyms in it. And actually, if I say my full title, and I know, Kim, you announced my title for me, which was great. It is a mouthful to say, especially if I have to say out all of the ICT portion. So ICT actually means information and communication technology. So it's a really long title, but it's supposed to be an all-encompassing term for anything on the digital web that you encounter. So often if you think of web accessibility, that's just websites and web applications. But information and communication technology can encompass documents and software and other things as well. So it's kind of an older term that runs the gamut of all the different types of ways you can interact on the web. So another unique thing about us, and just like all our other core programs, we're kind of supported by other grants and contracts in addition to that ACL funding. Specifically for us, and I think this is where a lot of folks get a misconception developed about us, we do have a pretty substantial grant from contract with DRS that allows us to do quite a bit of work. We also have one with the Southwest ADA Center, and then we have a couple of others that are kind of specifically for different partners. So what these grants and contracts allow us to do to really work with lots and lots of groups across the state. So that includes state agencies, that includes universities, K-12 institutions, and obviously any workforce initiatives. So that is what we're allowed to do just based on these wonderful grants and contracts and partnerships that we have. All right, so now I want to ask you all another question. So we've talked a little bit about AT, but now I wanted to talk a little bit about physical accessibility accommodations, just to start trying to draw a parallel between what you're used to seeing in the physical world and what we're going to talk about in the digital world. So what are some examples of physical accessibility accommodations that you've seen in everyday life? Ramps, that's the first one most people come up with. Automatic doors, awesome. Anyone have any more ideas?
Ergonomic equipment.
Ergonomic equipment, yep. So that was already listed kind of as an AT device, and that's sort of those kind of connect. Scooters in stores, yep, that's another accommodation. All right, awesome. Y'all had some great ideas. Sensors, like for lights and faucets, turning those on, absolutely. Yep. So y'all had some great ideas there. And I love that Jared brought up ramps immediately. That's the one I always go with, just because, like I said, it's the most common. But what we try to say about digital accessibility, just to kind of try to make it a little bit more commonplace for folks who are not used to doing this work, like we are here at Able Tech. Basically, we're trying to build in ramps for the internet. That's kind of the short version of what we try to do. Now, if you think about it though, drawing back to that parallel with ramps, these accessibility features can actually benefit everyone. So ramps are of course helpful for folks who are in wheelchairs, but they're also really helpful for folks who are using crutches, maybe because they have a broken leg or ankle, maybe families who are using strollers. So this is not any different in the digital realm. So if you make a Word document that is accessible, there's a higher likelihood it's going to benefit everybody. Make it easier for you to create the document, and also for other folks who don't have disabilities to understand it, just because your content's likely simpler. So something I want you to keep in mind as we kind of move forward. And we'll do a couple of little exercises later. I know I couldn't get through a whole training today, but wanted to kind of at least show you some of the things that we do and we look for. Okay, so again, drawing the parallel between AT interactions and that digital space. So some folks encounter a website using a keyboard only. So these are folks who are blind, who maybe have don't have enough dexterity to use a mouse. So keyboard is actually considered a piece of AT in this case. The second one I have is a Braille display device, and this is refreshable Braille display. So this is for blind folks who actually know how to use Braille, and it'll kind of refresh across the board as it's encountering different content. So it works similarly to a screen reader, but just obviously with tactile feedback. These are also super handy for folks who are deaf and blind. And then on the right-hand side, we have a switch device. So again, think of physical dexterity issues. If you're not able to maybe open or close your hand, you can just hit the switch device, and that functions like the tab key on the keyboard to navigate through a website. And then somebody had already mentioned voice to text activation. So that's another digital interaction there. So Dragon Naturally Speaking is the most common one. And then the last thing I have on here is an example of a screen reader. So this one is created by NV Access. It's called NVDA, and it is free. You may have also heard of JAWS. So those are the varieties of ways, and of course, I'm not including them all, that folks can interact with the digital space. All right. So I wanted to give you a little definition of accessibility as well. So accessible means that individuals with disabilities are able to independently acquire the same information, engage in the same interactions, and enjoy the same services within the same time frame as individuals without disabilities, with substantially equivalent ease of use. So that's a lot of words. This actually came from a settlement, I think, with the University of Minnesota and the Office of Civil Rights. So I really like using this definition, and I actually have a little sticky note on my desk that says same information, same interactions, same services, same time frame, because that's really what we're striving for here. We can talk about standards and policy, and I'm going to delve into that here shortly, all we want, but that's really the goal that we're going after here. All right, so I don't want to bore you too much with the legal side of things, but I did kind of want to point out a few of the policy pieces that do go along with the work that we do in the digital accessibility space. So first off, accessibility is really a civil right. And It is protected by the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is ADA for short. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with that. And we do have 2 titles in there that are pretty important. So Title I protects access to employment, and then Title II protects access to public sector programs, services, and activities. So most things really fall under these categories. And there has been a lot of debate in recent years as to whether or not the ADA can apply to digital spaces. So I don't know, have any of you heard of the Domino's case? If you have, so thumbs up or something in the chat. I'm just curious if anyone's heard of it. Sorry, I'm asking for a lot of interaction. It might not have been the best presentation to do that in, but I really love interacting with the crowd. Seeing anything, so maybe no one's heard of it, but it's an interesting case to look up. So if you're curious about it, just type in Domino's ADA in Google, and you'll find a lot of articles about it. So it's been back and forth in the Supreme Court and all that. But anyway, I think, and you can kind of think of anything you deal with these days, it's, you know, got a mobile app or it's got a website. So these are becoming very crucial spaces to protect because you can't necessarily have access to employment or those public sector programs without these digital spaces. There's also the Federal Rehabilitation Act, which the ADA expanded in 1990. It applies to federal government and contractors. So like Title I and II, we have protections for employment and public sector programs with Section 503 and Section 504. So there are some teeth in this content, obviously. And then we have these technology specific laws. So Section 508 is part of the Rehabilitation Act, and it is specifically written for federal procurement, basically. Now, I put an acronym in there. It's WCAG 2.0 AA, and that's the set of standards that we use to grade, basically, websites and documents to make sure that they are meeting the requirements for accessibility. So you don't need to know much about that at all, but that's what we're looking at when we're thinking about standards and the guidelines we need to use to actually grade things. So this covers websites, web applications, non-web, mobile, and installed apps. And it, well, like I mentioned, it applies under the federal contract. I think I've already said that. Now, I have this on this next slide too. So we actually have a law in Oklahoma that unfortunately not a lot of people know about. This actually went into effect in 2005. It's called the Oklahoma Electronic and Information Accessibility Act, and it's EITA for short. So this law actually was written and referenced Section 508 back when it was first placed into effect. But as of March 2020, it was actually updated to match the newer standards in Section 508, which is that WCAG 2.0 AA. So we modernized quite a bit. So this law applies to state agencies, universities, and the career and technical education. So basically, again, most things that we deal with that this law touches. All right. So wanted to kind of cover a little bit about what we as the ICT accessibility program provide as far as services. So we have 4 kind of groups that we provide services in. And the first one is training. So we do quite a bit of training like this, or you know, just more technical training. We do anything ranging from you know, an introduction to Microsoft Word to more technical web accessibility testing. Right now, that's kind of on a custom basis, but we're actually kind of working to really solidify our training practices and make it to where we have more available throughout the year that you can sign up for. So kind of be on the lookout for that. And then we also, this is the newest big thing that we're working on. We're working on some self-paced courses that will allow you to go in and register for these courses and take them as you're able to. They'll be hosted in an LMS, learning management system called Canvas. And we're really excited about that. Those first courses should be coming out here in a few months. So that is very exciting, and we are ready to get that project moving. And then we also have website assessment. So if you have a website that you are concerned might be inaccessible, we're able to go take a look at that and then work with you to correct any issues that we find along the way. And that typically rolls into technical assistance. So technical assistance is our broad category for anything you can think of. So whether it just be a question on why this table of contents is acting funky in Word, to, how do we build a program for accessibility here at our organization. We can run the gamut of those different types of requests. And then lastly, we provide quite a few resources. And hopefully this presentation will be shared with you. And I have a resource slide at the very top that allows you to kind of click through. And I have some information about the laws I went over, as well as our Able Tech resources. So we're also trying to strengthen that as well. So you'll see some changes to our resources in the coming months, hopefully. All right. So I kind of already mentioned this a little bit, but I'll just kind of go back over it again. So we can, any accessibility question is probably something we can help you with. If we don't know it, we'll find it out, or we can rely on some of our partners that we work with to help you out if we're not able to do so. But we typically work with document accessibility, website accessibility, accessibility and procurement. So making sure that anything you purchase from a vendor or even get for free from a vendor is accessible, program building, social media, law and policy. So we have to know quite a bit. I joke all the time that we're very much generalists in our job. It's just a team of 2 right now. So we have to know quite a bit about quite a few things. Okay, so now, we're at about 2:30. All right, great. I wanted to go over a quick example. And so for those of you who have a computer in front of you, you're able to follow along with this as we go through it. But I wanted to give you, I'm sorry, my voice is maybe not going to survive the rest of this. I hope it does. Alex has worked as a reporter for more than 20 years and has developed a repetitive strain injury that makes it painful to use a mouse and to type for extended periods of time. So what we're going to do is actually go to this website that is designed to be inaccessible, and we're going to see how his interactions might go with this website. So I'm going to pop this link in the chat. Switch over. All right, and let me know if you're not seeing, it says Accessible University at the top. Sometimes Zoom doesn't switch over properly, but I'll put this link in the chat, and I'll give people a second to kind of get there, and then I'll kind of give you some instructions. So again, we're kind of thinking about Alex and the fact that he has this repetitive strain injury that's not allowing him to really use a mouse or interact with a website in ways that we may be familiar with. So can I get someone to at least let me know that they've gotten there, so I know at least whoever wants to follow along is following along?
I'm here with you.
You're with me? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so what I want you to do is, when I just kind of gave a little thing away of moving the mouse there, put your mouse or cursor up in the address bar, and then what I want you to do is just start hitting the tab key. And I just want you to see what happens. Just hit it maybe 5 or 6 times. Okay. So this is where I'm going to quiz you all again before I give away the answers to this. But does anyone see any problems, or what problems did you encounter, I guess is the better way to phrase that, as you were tabbing through the site? And I'll give you some hints if you're struggling, and there are no wrong answers.
You really don't know where you're at when you're tabbing.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you have no idea. So that's actually step 1. That's one of the things we check for. And also, you're getting a glimpse right now of when we get a website in, this is the first thing we do. Typically, if keyboard accessibility hasn't been thought of or considered, then we know that the site's likely not accessible as a whole. So this is actually the first thing we always do. So yeah, there is no way to see where you are. All right, so what I'm going to do is activate this focus bookmarklet. And at this point, it would take a little too long to have you download this. I'm happy to share this information after about the focus bookmarklet because it is a super handy testing tool. But for the sake of time, I'll just kind of show you what's going on. So I turned on my focus bookmarklet, and that just basically activates this ring around. Right now, I'm on the About page. And what that's telling me is that's where the focus is actually on this page right now. So if I kind of keep going, I can see where I'm at. Keep going through, and I can just kind of navigate down the line. Now, what I want to do is go through this a little bit slower. And I want you to think about the slideshow in particular. So the slideshow has, it's right below the navigation menu, and it has left arrow, right arrow, and then the 3 dots at the bottom that let you change between the slides. So we are wanting those to be interactive, right? So I'm gonna keep going through. I'm just hitting the tab key, and I get in and I can actually access this picture. So if I hit enter, it's probably going to take me off to something. This is a demo site, so the links don't typically go anywhere. But when I hit tab again, instead of going into my left arrow key or my right arrow key, it just skips it. So what this means as far as accessibility testing goes is that this slideshow is completely inaccessible for someone using a keyboard, which not only includes keyboard only users, it includes screen reader users or braille display users, fully inaccessible. So we're looking for 2 things when we're looking at keyboard accessibility. We're trying to make sure that everything is has a visible keyboard focus, and we're also trying to make sure that everything can be reached and utilized on the page. So often, we'll take a mouse through and see what all we can get to and make sure we know what is supposed to be activated and what's not. And then we'll go through with the keyboard and then see if that actually matches up. So now, did anyone notice anything else that can be activated with the mouse that we actually didn't cover on the keyboard? So I think I gave away a hint on accident. It's okay if not, I think I did it pretty quickly. But just kind of think about what on this page you might want to interact with the mouse and try it. And then think about if you remember us actually encountering it as I was tabbing for. Might really have stumped you with this one, but I wish you could have the focus bookmarklet tool. That would help out a lot, but like I said, for time. Okay, so one thing that we see a lot, and I'll just give away the answer, is this is actually activated on mouse over, this about page, the academics, admissions and visitors. But if we go back through with our tool, I can't actually open these at all. I'm hitting the enter and the space bar because those typically should open buttons, and it's not doing anything. So not only do we have an inaccessible slideshow, we actually have inaccessible navigation on this. So, some of you may not be dealing with websites, but I really like this example to illustrate sort of the overarching impact of, not thinking about accessibility, what it actually can do for someone. Now, if you're dealing mainly with Word documents and things like that, you're not going to have to worry so much about keyboard accessibility. So I don't want to scare you off necessarily. But this is something that, it really sometimes helps to illustrate just how much of an impact not thinking about these things can have on a person. Let's flip back to my slideshow. And does anyone have any questions on anything I've covered up to this point? I hadn't really paused to do that.
I have a question, but I'm sorry I had to step away for a minute if you've covered it. Do you actually go to a business to walk them through this process to help them figure out some things they could do differently for their employees?
So we do offer training on how to do web accessibility testing. Right now, it's not so much in person because we've kind of gone to Zoom for everything, but we in the past have done so. So yeah, we're able to meet with you to help you understand how to test for accessibility, how to look at documents to make sure they're accessible. So like I said, you just got a really small glimpse into a website accessibility testing process just now. We have a similar process for documents. So that's something we not only train on, but we'll help you learn how to do.
Thank you.
Sure. Good question. Anyone else have any questions? I'm almost done with my slides, so I might just continue on and I have some more time later for the questions. Okay, so I just wanted to leave you with a couple of other things. So you just saw this example of keyboard accessibility, but I wanted to kind of leave you with a couple of ideas of things you can just do right now. So if you're somebody who creates documents or social media posts, there are, and we have a lot of resources on our website for how to get to adding alternative text. But basically, we were just talking about someone who was using a screen reader potentially. Well, another thing to think about with blind folks is they can't see the images that are on the screen, right? So if we are not including a method for them to know what that image is, they're completely missing the context. So a lot of tools these days do allow you to add alternative text. I know Instagram does, I know Facebook does. Some of like Snapchat and TikTok are a little more, they're working on accessibility. They're not quite there yet. But anyway, most of the time you can just Google, how do I add alt text to X thing? And then you can find out how to do that. And then the thing you want to do is make sure you're putting in as much context as possible. So, you know, kind of like I'm doing right now, or I've been describing, you know, each of the slides I've been on. How would you describe this to someone on over the phone if they're not seeing the image? And that's what you should add as your alt text. So I would just challenge you, anything that you leave today and go add an image to, either use our resources or do a Google search. We actually joke that 90% of our jobs are Googling because there is a new case that comes up about accessibility just about every week, I swear. We just had one last week that I'd never heard about with regards to track changes. So we do a lot of research and learning on our own time. But anyway, I would just challenge you to do that. And the other thing you can do is turn on captioning. So this impacts the deaf community. If you have somebody who may be slightly hard of hearing, but hasn't really disclosed that, turning on captioning for them in Zoom or in Teams is always a great idea. So we typically make it a practice, if we can, just get that turned on as soon as we can to make sure that those captions are at least there and presentable. Now you have the option to do live captioning too from a human, and we do that for all of our events as well. But for meetings, Zoom has a built-in kind of it's artificial intelligence that does the captions for you. So I would challenge you to kind of find those settings and turn those on if you can. Okay, so now it's basically to Q&A time, but I also just wanted to ask you the question, like, what can we help you with? What might you be struggling with, or what has maybe piqued your interest in this presentation that you might want to know more about? So feel free to either answer that or just ask any other questions. And with that, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I first of all want to say thank you for presenting today. I always learn from you. One of the things I wanted to share with this group in particular is you and I sat for, I think it was 3 days, maybe not that long, but I'm old school, so you had to teach me a lot of technical things. But one of the things that I reached out to you in particular, Lisa, what I think it was a couple of years ago, is to make my Hot Jobs flyer that I send out weekly accessible. And we went over the do's and the don'ts and things like that. And that's one of the things that I take pride in, is that I make sure that it is accessible before I send it out. The descriptions are great. Sometimes you can have the computer generate a description and it's completely off. So then you can just go in and, you know, say that, you know, it's, you know, a group of people smiling, but it could actually be, you know, dogs in a park or something like that. So you just have to really go in and be as descriptive, but we also talked about clear and concise, not to be too wordy. I tend to do that. So we went over all those things as well. So yes, I just implore those that are out there today in my audience in person and those that are meeting us virtually to reach out to Able Tech. This is really important that we make this a priority. You know, a law that was passed a long time ago that we're still working on to try to be in compliance with seems to be, we're getting better. I know that Dana Clark does an excellent job with her social media postings for CoWIB, but this is a good opportunity for all of my partners and community-based organizations to reach out and just ask, what can we do better? Because if you know better, you do better, right? So that's kind of a short phrase that Maya Angelou used to say. So